What is up? I'm Miguel Antonio, and you are listening to the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. And before we jump into the podcast today, I'd love for you to check out my band, Run With It. Here's a clip from our song, At Least You Tried.
But what if your book has not been written? What if you have one more song left? What if you have what it takes at the bottom of the well? What if you have what's been missing? What if there's someone who needs those words, needs your melody? Dig down deep. What would the others say? They say, God damn, at least you tried. At least you tried. What would the others say? They say, God damn, at least you tried. At least you tried.
If you like what you heard, make sure you check us out at Run With It Band, at Run With It Band, everywhere you follow people at, or go to runwithitband.net. It'll take you to all the different links you want to go to, and there'll be a little button you can click for booking information. Now for today's podcast.
The Live and Create podcast.
Yeah, this is the first time in my life where everything I have going on has actually affected my ability to write. It has literally never happened before. This is the longest I've gone without releasing new music in my entire life since I've been writing original music, which has been like 21 years. To some degree, so when I was in high school, the first time I actually put out music was actually because I was accepted into this, at the time, prestigious art, music, drama camp that happened in North Georgia. A lot of the kids at this camp were Silver Spoon kids, and I'm not. I made a CD, and then my dad and I basically rolled around and just sold it to people.
Nice.
And that's how,
Doing the old school, like masterpiece style, like you're
yeah, that's how. And it was, horribly produced tunes. I made the beats, I mixed it. I didn't know anything about anything.
Love it though. That's how it's supposed to start, right?
Yeah, I had you remember those whole long little microphones that they used to make for computers? It was like,
it had a little bass on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've rapped into that.
Yeah.
Or beats that I made into, I think, Acid Pro, maybe.
Perfect.
And so, but
you got a lot of saturation. Is that saturation you put on your voice? It's something. It's something.
And I think, my parents put some money down on it, but it was I think I sold $700 or $800. I sold 80 CDs or something like that.
Nice, man.
And I made them myself. I pressed.
How old were you?
Myself.
You said high school?
Yeah, I think I was 16.
Okay.
And that was the first thing I ever put out. And the camp was awesome. There were kids who were signed to major labels who were there.
Wow. This is a very prestigious camp. That's for real.
Yeah. It was the first time that I actually learned that that was the first time I was like, oh, I'm actually talented. Because I had this awareness that hey, I'm in a small town, I might just be talented for my group of people.
Right.
It was I'd watched. You're
Midwest hot, not California hot,
Yeah, and in this case, Deep South hot, right?
Or Deep South hot, yeah.
And I'd watched enough American Idol to know that there are people who had been told they were talented their whole life and weren't. So I didn't know I didn't know that I was actually talented until I got here.
Okay.
But anyway, so, I'm 36.
So now 21 years later, you suddenly can't write or don't have the time to write.
Right. So 20 years later, so I'm 36 now, and that was when I was 16. And this is the first time I've ever had trouble. I'm sitting on a boatload of almost finished songs.
Right.
And I know there's a process I've had when I've gotten into a drought before where I know I need to inspire myself, and I know how to do that. But that time hasn't been there, where like basically I don't know if you've heard J. Cole talk about his like 7-minute drill thing he does
in the mornings.
Yeah.
Dude,
So
I started that this past year. I was only able to keep it up because some of my days start at 4:30 a.m. And so I was doing it. And honestly, it was a great exercise. I want to get back to it. I loved it. So
it's really good. And I don't do that exact thing, but I do very versions of morning pages from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. And I've done that for years. And sometimes when I need to get back into a writing groove, I just extend that into just basically freestyling into my journal. And it's just like a way to reconnect with my inner voice. And because I'm so comfortable with my voice, like it doesn't take much repetition of that for me to get back into a groove. But I just hadn't, until recently, I hadn't had time to even try to do that. So
and that's from all the touring and like, cause you've been on the road internationally going everywhere, man.
Yeah. And teaching at KU, fall and spring kicked my ass this year. I have multiple combos that I lead, which is fine, but I also have this online hip hop history course, and it's a short answer format class, and that's been manageable the first 2 years I did it, but this last fall and spring, especially spring, I think I had like 49 students.
Wow.
It's a short answer format thing. And I haven't told him this, but I remember I was at a party at Peter Slam's house when Peter Slam and Matt Villinger still lived together. And Jeff Harshbarger was there, and he's been teaching at KU for forever. And it was him and Matt Otto, who Matt Otto co-heads the jazz program at KU.
Okay.
And both of them were like, hey, you really should consider like making that class more multiple choice. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be cool. Famous last words.
It keeps playing in the background as you're going. You're like, oh, God.
Because I'm just reading all these typed out answers, and I'm just like, oh my God, just like shoot me. Like, come on. I have other stuff to do. But I want to do right by the students, and it just really kicked my ass, among a bunch of other stuff. Like I'm also raising money for Kansas City Community Gardens. I've been doing that for 5 years. Okay. And 2 years ago, I basically got promoted in my part-time gig, which I never was not on the bingo card at all. I got promoted to major gifts from just being a part-time grant writer, which means that I'm going after people who can write big checks. And so that's way more engagement and still part-time, but just like sometimes, I'm on the payroll right now for 25 hours a week with them. Sometimes that's 5 hours a week. And sometimes that's like 60.
Yep. I get that. I've been there on certain things like that. I know how that goes. Like some weeks you're like, yeah. And then it just takes up everything.
Yeah. And it was like the way that the fiscal year cycle and stuff has gone with having that role. Like everything ramps up between KCCG and KU at the same time. Right. Semester wise. So it's just like, I'm like good. And then I'm like dying. But when things ramp up with those things, it's also when like all the gigs are happening.
Yep. And so it's like if everything could happen in January and February, that's not music, that'd be great. Right.
It'd be awesome, right?
Yeah. Because like January comes and it's like, I'm just walking around the house like, what the fuck do we do? We ain't got nothing to do.
Yeah. Bro, I just don't have other words to say besides it kicked my ass. Like, and it's wild because I've rebuilt so many things that I lost over COVID, except like the sync licensing thing. So I had a sync licensing rep. I was getting small placements, and then
nice, man.
Fox Sports cleared one of my songs on some numbers that would have materially changed my life.
Hell
and
yeah.
Sinclair, I think, or something like that, had bought Fox Sports, but hadn't cleared. Fox Sports was still doing the creative direction, and then COVID happened, and they killed all the creative direction.
Right.
And they never like brought the song back. Like they brought back the conversation once, but they never brought it back. So like I have new sync licensing relationships, but I'm not making any new music because I don't have time to finish my songs. And it's like everything else is happening. International touring's happening, the gigs, like I'm.
Well, that's yesterday we were sitting in a session. Are you familiar with King Green?
Yeah.
So we were sitting in a session with him and just hearing how he like does things in the sync licensing world versus the artist world. And that's why I was so curious and like asking questions around that of like, how do you balance like being an artist, doing the sync thing? Cause we're on this sync licensing path. I know we talked about that when we were playing at the Midland that one day.
Yeah.
And we finally got representation. We just got like our first sync agency, got a sync agent as well.
Congrats,
like hustling
man.
things. Thank you. But I'm in that same spot where it's like I gave them the initial catalog, and now I know they're waiting for, you know, the next 4 songs and the next 4 songs, and they're sitting on the hard drive. I just got to tweak this, remix that. But like we got all these shows, we got, you know, and I want to keep writing. That's why I realized I hadn't been writing. I've just been mixing and like doing the technical things, which I enjoy, but it's different than crafting a story and crafting the words and doing the narrative, you know? And so this past week, I was just like, okay, here's 2.5 hours. And that's all I'm going to do is write, because I'm doing a collaboration now with another producer, blah, blah. And it just felt so good to finally get back to writing. That's one reason you mentioned that J. Cole piece. I'm like, dude, do I need to just find a way to work that back in my day? And maybe he rolls right out of bed, my understanding, and then starts writing. And when I tried that, I did it for about a month and a half, but then, like I said, my days are so early. I'm like, damn, I can't keep getting up earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in that, I share all that because, one, I feel you. It's that struggle. I feel like the sync licensing thing is a huge piece for us, like huge potential. Like you said, like life-changing money. Like King Green shared that his first 3 songs they wrote for Sync over the last decade have made them $600,000. And it's like that literally is life-changing money. And that's something he did 10 years ago that keeps working for him and then allows him to do his artist work. When you look at your career, where it's at right now, in all these things we're talking about, what's like the main goal? Like when you wake up, this is the main goal that's driving all these threads. I'm curious.
I want to be able to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's funny saying that to people because a lot of people think that I have like this big ambitious thing because I'm a really relentless person and all this stuff. But I realized a while back that I'm kind for the most part. I love on people. I'm not like really power hungry. I don't really need a lot as a human being. I would like to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want, whyever I want, however I want, on my own terms. And I know I'm not like on some Lex Luthor or I guess in real life Elon Musk shit. Like I'm just not. Like I just want to be able to basically be financially abundant on my own terms or die trying. And I happen to be a creative, and music has allowed me to be in a place and create a life where I don't necessarily have to be ridiculously beholden to anybody. So I'm going hard on that path because I love it. And I'm a community advocate, but I'm not doing anything particularly for community advocacy. Is just where my heart and my brain lie is stuff that usually lends itself towards community advancement, bringing people together, helping people's lives, make their lives better and stuff like that.
Right.
So I really just want to do what occurs to me.
Yeah.
What makes sense for me to do at a given moment. And I guess that has been, for the last better part of a decade, building my life around my art. And I'm at a crossroads right now where literally I was in financial tech. I was looking at 6 figures of equity once invested, and I had this great career path where literally the chief sales officer of the company I was working for, and I was working for Sandy Kemper, like this brilliant financial tech startup at the time that had a lot of potential. And it's still going, but like the chief sales officer, when he hired me, they poached me from Cerner, and with signing my offer letter, he takes me to lunch and he's like, look, I only expect to have you for 2 or 3 years. You're either going to get poached to be a senior manager or an AVP somewhere, or you're going to leave and do music. And I was like, oh, you understand me.
He sees it.
So when I did leave to do music full time, initially that was like, it has to be only music is my career income because pride, image, optics, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
What that very quickly evolved it to is like me recognizing like, music isn't Taylor Swift's only job. You know what I mean? So there's no level.
That's a great way to put it.
it's not Drake or Kendrick's only job. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, there's no level of professional musicianship where music is your only job. It's like a gateway. It's like a catalyst for other things.
Right.
And I think it's like a flexibility multiplier.
I like that, how you said that, flexibility multiplier. I dig that.
Yeah, and that's how. So, I say I want to do whatever I want. I guess a more coherent thing to say what I want to do is build a life around my art. And what's happening now is I did that, and now I'm like, I have to build a life around my art differently, where I've been successful at building my life around my art, but my success has created barriers to my creative process. And so now I have to rebuild my life around my art.
I got chills when you said it, because I just feel that, because it's almost like, I think it was Neil Gaiman as an author, and he talked about how he became so good at writing novels that he got promoted to answering emails, and he can never write novels anymore. It's like how do you, as the creative, not let the business part destroy that very thing that got you to where you're at, you know, and carve out the space, but handle your shit too, like handle your business. Man, yeah, I like how you said that. But what did you say? The flexibility multiplier.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah,
because it feels like sometimes success. Like I remember when our band was touring a ton. It's like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, week and a half on, week and a half off, and it's like you can only sustain that kind of life for a while. And I knew people who were doing that for like a decade, and they're just constantly gone. I'm like, I had to ask myself, is this the life long term do you really want too? So if it's not, but you want music, what changes do you have to make so that you can do both, you know?
Yeah, I think it's funny how like musicians anywhere have to work really hard, but like being in the US, it's like, if you really think you're carved out to do this, we have to work so hard to sustain ourselves and to build something. And I think that process, the evolution and the pivoting is constant. And there has to be a lot of self-awareness if you don't just want to like teach lessons and play gigs at clubs and have residencies. Like that's totally cool. I know I didn't leave the equity I left on the table to just play gigs and teach lessons.
You're like, I could have had the freedom I wanted without music, but you could have got there.
Yeah. It's like, I've got an MBA from a top 50 business school. I have like, even now my LinkedIn inbox can get pretty interesting, and I haven't worked in that capacity at this point in 8 years.
Well, I imagine at this point, you're honestly even more of an asset because you've carved out so many unique things and have so much more experience in different realms that, like, I could see people wanting to recruit you back to the business world real quick.
Yeah, and I go out and raise money, and I write proposals still and whatnot, and that's there. But to your point about like, you can't just constantly tour. Like,
at least for me, I should say, I felt like that was not a great long-term plan for me. I was married, 4 kids. Like if I was early 20s, sure, let's do that for a decade, But like I knew for me, I was like, wait a minute, I need to figure out how to do something different. Just to clarify, I'm not saying everybody shouldn't do it, because I'm sure there's some people who love that lifestyle.
Yeah, that's good for some people.
Years. Yeah.
I'm not really there either. I will probably be touring for the rest of my life in some capacity.
I want to definitely tour, but on my terms.
Yeah. I know even, there's with my partner now, some of the conversations she and I have had, I've never been in a position like the other like serious relationships I've been in. I was in like, I might be a musician or I'm in struggling musician. I haven't been in a serious thing with somebody where like, I'm like, oh, I'm a successful working musician. And I had to deal with all this like self-consciousness around her perception of me, because I was thinking that she was looking at me the way that I existed in some of these other things. And she's like, no, like I'm good. I'm good with this. If nothing else happens from where you are right now, I'm good with this. And that's really helpful. And I'm thinking like, okay, I'm in my mid-30s now. I don't want to be in my 50s having to gig in clubs late night all the time. So how do I create a path where my life is still built around my art. And, I have some weekends sometimes. I'm not out late all the time. I can do things with my person, and have like a regular dude life while still occasionally playing for thousands of people and hundreds of people and finding a way to make a real living that makes sense. So,
Absolutely.
That just to your point, I think it's a constantly evolving thing. It's a constant pivot thing. And it's
Like
a
do
journey,
this work,
but
that didn't, and
yeah,
adjust,
yeah. I don't know if that was
Yeah,
coherent enough. But
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. And I think that's where a lot of people get. I think what's interesting, I feel like a lot of people, when they hit this part of their story in the music career, that's when they decide it's done. That's when they decide to leave, as opposed to saying, okay, I like this part of it. I like this part of it. Where are the other opportunities? I think that's where this podcast is becoming more and more about sync licensing, because almost all the guests I'm bringing in now are from that world now, is where I'm living. But that was one of the eye-opening pieces of the sync licensing world. You had, Josh Williams?
yeah,
Actually, Will, I brought him on the podcast, and then when he broke down, like he's making music, and, he was even inspired when he realized he was playing a benefit concert for someone in their 50s who was doing, basically that was his path. He saw like, wait a minute, I'm playing a benefit concert for this dude in his 50s who lived the life I'm about to go do. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be stuck there, and that's what put him on this path. And it's opened my eyes to the opportunities there of building. For me, I think of it as like building wealth with my music. And what does that look like? And to where you're getting to a place of crafting shows that are like, these are events, not just like, because I call it my mercenary thing, where it's like, dude, right now you offer me a gig, I'm like, yes, we're there, because it's just where it's at. I think this Friday, for some reason, I don't have a gig, and my oldest son, he was like, hey, y'all want to hang out? I was like, well, we got to do it this Friday because I can't until like Christmas. So, but it's like, how do you, Nas, his album is like 2 albums ago. He released 2 albums in the last, like, what, 5-6 years?
So is Magic 3 and King's Disease 3.
Yeah, the King's Disease. He talks about like having brunch, like on one of his things. And I told my wife, we were talking about, how would you feel? Like, when would you know you made it? And she's like, if we had courtside tickets at the Lakers, like, or season tickets. And she was like, how about you? I was like, if we could go to brunch anytime we wanted. Because I was just nonstop listening to Nas. And I was like, that sounds like the wealthiest shit in the world, that you have time to sit down and drink mimosas on a Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's very, very real. And
yeah,
this is the first time in years I'm literally in right now where I'm like, oh, I've been in just every level of single that you can imagine, to put it lightly. And in the last
I used to describe myself as super single until I met my wife. So I feel you.
And it's been glorious and highly prolific and very fun and all that good stuff. And here I am now, like, trying to like work my life around somebody a little bit. And I forgot about this thought process. And what's cool is that it's recognizing that it's doable. And, with even, if you take the sync stuff out of the picture, you take having a big record out of the picture, and let's just say it's just gigs and merch, and maybe there's like a side gig somewhere that's flexible. That's still like what we're doing. You could make, you could have like a 6 to 8K month off of a few corporate gigs,
Facts,
some lessons, merch sales, and still leave a weekend open, especially if you're doing some weeknight gigs and you have like a thing going on. And like, that's not something that I thought was really possible when I started doing this. I thought you had to you had these specific things that had to happen. But I think what happens when you commit honestly to building your life around your art is, like, if you're actually open to the pathways that come to you. Like, I think, I love listening to quarterbacks talk. And one of my favorite things that quarterbacks say is like, oh, I just, they have a great game. And like, oh, I just took what the defense gave me. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that with this path, I get in my head a lot. I tunnel vision a lot. And I'm like constantly in like a pull myself out of my head, pull myself out of the tunnel thing. But really, a lot of this, I think, is like having a strategy, being consistent, and then kind of taking what the game gives you. And everybody's walk is different. But if we're consistent and we're intentional and we take what's put before us and then add to that, and add to that and keep pushing forward, like there's a pathway where all this stuff kind of works and something sensible comes together,
Absolutely. Well, and that's, that my like sync licensing world, I started last November just like going all in. I was like, I'm going to learn production. I worked around the clock trying to learn this world. And I envisioned it being me sitting in my studio constantly by myself, writing track upon track upon track. And so, but I knew that was my direction. But then all of a sudden I started learning, like you said, these new things came into play where I was like, oh, it's built out of collaboration. It's like all these people I'm meeting who are actually successful, they're collaborating with writers and producers all over the world. I'm like, oh, that's actually cool. Let's go that direction. I've never considered that, and I think if I would just had it in my mind that I was going to just do this thing by myself, in my office, that I'd be missing out on incredible opportunities to reach the goal that I have. For you, when you're thinking now, right? So you have all these successes around you and you've done some incredible stuff, hitting the billboards that was Brass and Bougie, right? That hit
it's Brass and Bougie and then Mega Ran, who's like the rap big bro.
Right. Okay. I missed that one on there, but that's awesome, man. So doing that, like have some great credits to your name, working with as UNESCO, we were talking a little bit about, but you were mentioning now you're kind of assessing. What do you think is the next like tactical step? What are you reading on the defense right now that you're switching up?
So three things. Really leaning in hard on the international thing, because now that it's happened, and just on that, pre-COVID, I was like, okay, we're going to figure out a way to tour internationally. I was in some conversations going into 2020 that died. 2020 wrecked a lot of people. It really wrecked me. There's like 12 different ways my life would have changed in 2020, and that all fell apart. So coming into the rebuild, I was like, okay, somebody is going to pay for me to perform a festival in another country. I don't know how it's going to happen, but somebody's going to pay for me to do it. And so when the UNESCO thing happened, I got that email while I was on the first real tour I had been on since the world shut down. Also, like the first like tour with some of the homies who were like more established and on the road playing cool stuff. So it was just a really cool moment. But there are Kansas City people who are in Germany, France, Italy. There are Kansas City people with connections in Northern Europe and like Portugal and Spain. And I'm basically tapping in on all that right now.
Nice.
To do my best now that I have kind of anchor cities, because the Ireland stuff was like magical. And like I can just go to Belfast or Dublin and just like camp out if I needed to.
That's awesome.
And like I could literally go operate out of these cities at this point.
Nice.
And I have enough people who rock with me in both of those cities where like I could couch surf enough to figure out a living situation, figure out the visa situation, and just like literally be there and like branch out. And I have a homie who is Scottish but was in Kansas City for a long time, who just moved back to Scotland. So now I have a Scotland plug.
Yeah.
Like that's one.
Okay.
Two is really getting back into being a content creator, because that's how I started. And it really annoys me how many people don't distinguish the difference between music and content. But I started out making music as content. Like I had some stuff. I'd made a Skyrim rap in 2012, late 2011, front page Reddit. I started doing the YouTube rap thing. I was one of the one of the early movers on YouTube anime inspired rap songs. I think there were like 6 people in North America doing it when I was doing it.
Nice.
That's like this thriving community now.
Yeah.
With people
that's what I'm going to
doing
say. It's like becoming so much, that's becoming part of like mainstream culture now. Like
Yes.
watching what's happening as far as the anime and the music and the rap. I think Imagine Dragons and, who was it? I want to say Lil Wayne.
J.I.D. and Imagine Dragons did a song for Arcane, if that's, I don't know if that's what.
Yeah, that was the one. But I feel like they did one with Lil Wayne a while back too for a different one. But yes, that's the one that Daniel keeps talking to us about. He's like, bro, this is the way.
And it's, you know, I have friends who like started a little after me and stayed in that world, who are doing millions on everything, and they're getting a lot of looks. And one of them just signed a major with complete creative control, which is unprecedented. And the thing, and like everybody knows everybody in that thing. So it's like there's all the, even if you're not active, so like I'm not active in the space right now, but like I'm at the events talking to everybody, you know, like there's a lot of love and collaboration there, and it just can happen. Right. So there's that. But what these guys are doing that's really successful right now is they're making a lot of music, but they're also dedicating a lot of time to short form content.
Mm-hmm.
That allocating, redoing my schedule so I have more time for that, to just like chop up videos and do little scenes for songs that I make. That's too, because the engagement from that for every release is astronomical.
Mm-hmm. It makes so much sense, man. Just the way that the world works, the way social media works, and the way people discover. It's how I'm discovering damn near all the artists I listen to now. It's just they're popping up on TikTok, following them. Next thing you know, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, these folks are legit. I like what they're doing, blah, whatever it is. Yeah, and I'm noticing so many YouTube. It's YouTube or TikTok is where almost everybody, it doesn't matter their age, like my little kids down to like my dad, that's where they're finding music. Like that's where they're finding new artists they love.
And just anecdotally, just 2 guys, and they were really successful before this happened. 2 guys who like I know personally, who like are very humble about their journeys, and also are like maniacs with like the level of obsessive work ethic that they had over years, putting out new music every week for years. But one of them, he goes by Fable. He hates short form content. And the other guy, Game Boy Jones, has been telling like everybody in this like anime inspired rap community, like, yo, short form content is the thing.
He's like, get over it, bro.
Fable, and like Fable's doing like numbers already. But he's like, okay, whatever, let me do this. So he's like doing this thing where he's like, hey, my name is Nick. This is his government name. He's like, my name is Nick, and I make music inspired by blah, blah, blah. Do you think I'm good enough to be a rock rap musician? It's like him on the beach in San Diego with a mic doing a snippet of his song. Best numbers he has ever had, you know, ever.
Honestly, some people don't even understand. It's like, it's usually that stuff that really, for some reason, connects, because it's like it's authentic. Cassie Joy she's a country artist.
Yeah,
she's like, you know, so she was telling me, she's like, we spent money a whole week on this one video, like nothing. She's like, we were drunk, came home from a bar one night and played like some stupid song on a couch with bad lighting, and that went our first million, you know?
Yeah.
It makes sense, but it's real, you know?
It's wild. And like, there's so much around that. And then Game Boy's been on the short form content thing for a while, and he's had a lot of success doing a lot of stuff. But like literally, we're in Dallas. There's this thing called Nerdcore Party Con. I'm down there with Mega Ran. It's like a convergence of the global YouTube nerdcore community. And I don't know if you saw the last pic I posted of me with some people in front of like a sea of people, but
I don't think I saw that one.
It was I think it's just on Facebook, but it was from that. It's a lot of people have it on their calendars all year. It's like the thing they're going to go to. And I think it was like 4 continents represented of like creators who came to that. I'm literally there talking to Game Boy, and he's like, yeah, I dropped this song like 2 weeks ago, and it's a Friday Night at Freddy's song or
Okay.
inspired song, and I guess some TikTok influencer who really likes FNAF posted it, and
That's
he was like,
brilliant.
"Dude, this song did 30,000 streams on Spotify yesterday."
Just off that video.
Then he's like, all these people are posted right now. So then the next day, the actual day of the show, he was like, this joint did 100,000 Spotify plays in the last 12 hours.
Nice.
And like, so those are just both anecdotal, but like,
Yeah. But
you
it's
know,
real.
I think where I am right now, and this is again like short form content goal, like I literally have not been able to consistently carve out time to do that. And I'm reducing my hours at Kansas City Community Gardens so that I can create more opportunities for myself regards to number 2, the short form content thing.
Yeah.
And then number 3 is just making music consistently again and getting some of it synced again.
Yeah.
And so I'm in like, I'm about to embark on a little bit of a faith walk because I have income I'm about to have to replace.
Okay.
Like that. So international, really dialing in on the international stuff, short form content, making way more music and getting some of it synced. Those are the big 3 for me right now.
Oh, yeah.
That was a very long response. So thanks.
No, I love it though. And
I
it makes so much sense too. And it's funny because like for us, I feel like more opportunities happen at home when you leave home, you know? And it's like, we were trying so hard to break into certain things when we first here. And it was Enrique from Making Movies. They had been touring and everything. He's like, you guys need to leave. You guys need to get out and go build something. And so we were like, yeah, let's go do it. And it's like, the more we started touring, the more we were out there, especially like the international stuff, that opens people's eyes. It's almost like more and more people just lock in and say, okay, this dude's serious, you know? So I think you touring, doing those things and then building that up is huge. I don't know if you saw Russ. Are you familiar with Russ? Have you seen his recent interview he did for a podcast called And the Writer Is?
No, I do. I'm very aware of his story and like I've paid a lot of attention to him.
But yeah, he shared that basically they asked him, they're like, what would you do now? Like if you're starting over now. And he said he doesn't think the once a week thing works as much with the current environment. But he was like, I think if you really want to make it, it's simple. You do one song a month, you do 200 pieces of short content based around that song, and you just keep doing it over and over. And we were already kind of considering a pathway like that. When I heard him say that, I was like, okay, you know, and because we were trying to find a rhythm so we can get back to like releasing, especially in the sync world, you need to keep building your catalog anyway, you know, it's huge.
Yeah. And it like, there's making music and then there's the release thing. And I've seen guys literally do like 3 or 4 minute long or 30 seconds long looks from the same snippet of the same song and just repost it and have like 3 or 4 songs that they do that with. And they're posting the same thing. And because of how algorithms works, those same posts will reach different people. Absolutely. And occasionally one of them explodes. So like, it's a bit of a different game now. Like I was in the release a song every week thing. Yeah. That's literally how my music career started. I'm in grad school and my buddy,
you were out there.
Yeah, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't nearly as successful as his run, but I mean, it's 2012. I had a couple things go viral, and I met this guy on the internet, Marcus Brown. He goes by Richie Branson, wildly successful dude. He had just gotten screwed over by his manager on a major label situation, but he still had mentors from Universal Music Group. And so they were like, dude, right now, drop something every week. Just find a way to brand it. So he started doing this thing called Otaku Tuesdays. And Otaku Tuesdays was like every week, every Tuesday, he dropped an anime rap. And I'm like, I was thinking about doing that at the time. And we met on YouTube because we both dropped raps inspired by Star Wars: The Old Republic. And this is like a big brother to me now, and like he's done a wild amount of crazy. He's just always crazy as he is. But he's doing Otaku Tuesdays, and I'm watching how this is moving, and I'm taking 15 hours of 500 level classes. I'm like, I'm going to do this summer. So summer comes around. I have to have an internship to graduate. Had an internship with a startup. It was online. Startup failed. It was too late for me to find another internship. I go to the grad school office at the University of Alabama. I'm like, hey, this happened. I know I need to have this. I don't know if it's possible for me to do anything about it. Can I use my music as a content marketing project and report on it to you at the end of the summer? They said yes. So then I started dropping weekly nerdcore raps on YouTube and just collecting the data from it. And it got so crazy that when school started, I just busted my ass to keep doing it. Like I did it the entire year. Wow. My entire second year of my MBA program. And what came from that is IGN wrote about me, Kotaku wrote about me. There was this thing that was big at that point in time called the Jace Hall Show.
Yeah.
Jace Hall, I think, was on like G4 TV when that was a thing. Jace Hall wrote about me, and it was like bonkers. And then Toonami, Turner Broadcasting, literally hired me to make music for Toonami.
Wow.
And that was my first sync placement.
Wow, man.
And that was the weekly thing.
Yep.
So it's evolved now. And so because I have homies doing it, I see all the things, I see all the strategy in action. It's just more like me reworking how my life works so I can actually do it. Because at this point I have like, I could just link you to numerous like in real-time case studies for people I know personally who are actually doing the, hey, release a song every month or every 3 weeks and make,
I'd love to connect with
them content.
Because I would love to connect with them because that's where we're headed. We wanted to start it. It's funny though. I like the practical piece that you're talking about though. You recognize I want to do this thing, so I have to carve out something. Something's got to be sacrificed here. And it was about a year ago. We were like, oh, let's put out this many songs, blah, blah. And then just the deeper I got into production and mixing, I was like, oh shit, I don't have the skill sets yet. And so it's like I had to commit myself to like basically not sleeping for 6 months to learn the skill sets. And I'd already been working in that world and like learning things, but it was like time to like put some steroids in it and really go to where we finally got to a place where like, okay, now it's time. But we had to kind of take a few steps back and say, okay, if this is going to happen, we need to do X, Y, Z. And sometimes I think people don't, it's like well, honestly, even Russ in that interview, he's like, yeah, like I want 6-pack abs. Like I want it, but I don't really want it because I want to do all these other things instead, and it's like, if we really want this thing, if this is really the goal you want the freedom, flexible, what'd you call it?
A flexibility catalyst, right?
Yeah.
Or flexibility multiplier.
Yeah. If you really want this thing, you got to go in and say and assess, here's my schedule. Where's it going to happen? What has to go? What do I say no to? I find myself saying no more and more the further I'm getting in. It's like I'm doing more of a thing, but less of everything else to like make these dreams happen. I don't know if it sounds like you're kind of in a similar place of saying, okay, we got to do less here so we can actually make this big thing happen.
Yeah, I'm at a crossroads, and I like there's so much stuff I can tell you anecdotally. Like Mega Ran hit me up, like he was like, hey, I have invites left if you want to be in the recording academy, and I was slammed in that time window and didn't get him what he needed, and that didn't happen this year. But then he came back and he was like, hey, if you want me to submit a song for you, even if it can get, past the first couple rounds of Grammy voting, just so like that can happen, let me know, send me songs. And I sent him songs. He was like, I need this for it. And I came back to him and I was like, I'm not fully in my process right now as far as making music. And I feel like this is like a bit of I'm shortchanging myself if I like just try to do this just because I can. So I'm going to pull back on this. And that's the big bro. He's always literally always looking out for me in one way or the other. So there's that just happened, but also a couple years ago, I was like lamenting on Twitter, X now or whatever, but I was lamenting about how like my subscribers aren't seeing my music or my posts on YouTube, my uploads. And there's a really successful YouTuber, hip hop artist, it goes by Cam Study. He really kind of gut checked me in his response to my tweet. He was like, dude, that's because YouTube thinks that nobody wants to see your stuff because you post so infrequently, you upload so infrequently. And that wasn't like you're not doing anything. That was like, I know that you're performing live all the time and you're not uploading consistently. And YouTube's algorithm thinks that nobody wants to see your stuff because you're uploading inconsistently. And it really made me like step back and say, okay, what do I actually want to be doing right now? Because in reality, I was playing a comparison game. I'm like, look, like I've been doing this. I started doing this before a lot of y'all started doing it. And y'all have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of subscribers, and everything you're doing is in the millions. And I just want to like come back in and be in that. But the reality is there is nothing in this game that works without consistency right now. There's not like flash in the pan stuff. The flash in the pan stuff is all like the whole like glacier meme where you see the iceberg or whatever, and then you see the bottom of it. Like everything's like that. So like it really was a great gut check. Like I think like 6 months after that, we were like shooting hoops before a concert we had together. And I was like, dude, thank you for that. And he was like, bro, like I know you're a successful musician already. So I wasn't bothered by you not being able to handle me being that blunt about that situation with you. But I think that applies to like all of our journeys as musicians. Like we have to, and like the intentionality, the recognition and the decision-making, like we have to recognize where we are and what we need to apply our energy to in this moment, because it's not possible to be consistent on all phases of all this stuff. There's so much stuff. And that's been like a hard thing for me to have to like come to terms with and work around and work with. But it's the reality. And I think it's like a beautiful part of the journey too.
Yeah, making those choices. And it does the consistency. We talk about it like in some of our band meetings where it's like, it almost doesn't matter what your strategy is. You just got to pick one and drill into it, like go and keep moving forward on that strategy, because then other things open up for you. And that consistency is key, man. When it comes to your business mind and your business background, what are some mistakes or suggestions, mistakes you see artists making, like they've never been in the business world, or what are some suggestions you would give artists from that business perspective? Excuse me.
I'd say the biggest mistake or the biggest thing that bothers me about musicians that I see is not putting out music. Like, and that seems like everything that bothers me is really simple and not anything that is profoundly business or profoundly anything. There was a guy, I had lunch with Andy Goldberg, who used to write with Seth MacFarlane for Family Guy when I was 21, and he was speaking at the University of Alabama, and I landed the lottery of like getting lunch with him. And I was like, what advice would you give your younger self? And this pissed me off. His response pissed me off at the time. He was like, if you consistently work hard and you're not crazy, you'll be really successful. And that made me so mad because it was so simple. but the older I get, I'm like, damn, like not a lot of people work hard and are cool consistently.
Right.
So like just my mindset is like be cool and put out music.
Right.
That's I think huge. Like I see a lot of gigging musicians who they don't feel stuck, but there's like, man, I wish I was doing this. And I'm like, you're not doing this because you either are not putting out music, or you're not being cool, or you're not putting out music and being cool.
Yep.
So that's one.
That's a great point.
Two is inconsistent merch game, which like I have been in and out of. Because you like if you're moving and you have merch, it's like you can double or triple your revenue as a musician. And that's like a merch overhead is hard. I like in this place where I've been now, like the last year or so, I've been very inconsistent on my merchandising game. So like, you know, that's not like I've been in and out of that.
Yeah, I feel like we're not great at it. You even saying that we have a fly date coming up in September, and I'm like, shit, we need to make sure it's ready. We even forgot it at our last gig. It was a big gig, and we just didn't bring it. It's like, what the?
Yeah, and it's really easy to not do, especially and like you and I both have gigs that like we actually get paid
right
decently to do, and it's really easy to get complacent on the merchandising thing because as a touring indie rapper, it's like, hey, you know, this gig might not generate anything out the door.
Those t-shirts are paying for dinner. You think of them a little differently. If you know it's all covered and we're good, we can pay everybody. It's like, it's the cream, but like in the end, you got to keep building, you know?
Yeah. And like, it's easy to be a little complacent when you're walking into something. You're like, hey, I'm probably going to make 200, 500, $1,000 individually.
Right.
Off of like the guarantee or the door, or like, this is a show that has sponsors. This extra overhead and inventory work is a little extra given that I have all this stuff to do already.
Right.
But I see a lot of artists who aren't in that position who don't have merch games. So there's that. I'd say the third thing is being too stuck on your local municipality scene, and also being too stuck on touring. I think from, you know, everybody's walk is different, but it seems to me that the most successful thing you could do as a small to mid-range independent artist is play ping pong if you don't have something blow up. And that is like, you're building locally. It used to be, hey, you become the one in your town, and then everybody's going to want you everywhere else, and you can prove that you're that guy or that girl because you got your hometown. I don't think that's really the case anymore, but I do think being one of the ones in your place has a lot of merit, but you're not going to build that the way that people could build that in like 2000 or 2007. But the ping pong thing is like, hey, I'm building in my town. I do something cool out of town. People in my town see that I'm doing something cool out of town. And so they book me for bigger stuff in my town. Then people from out of town see that I'm getting booked for bigger stuff in my town. And so I get booked for bigger stuff out of town.
Right.
And you're just playing ping pong. And
it's a compounding factor. It's like you're proving legitimacy, I think, you know, like subtly. You're not telling people you're great. You're showing people. And then, they can help you up the game in that regard.
Yes, and that is really aided by number one, which is being cool while putting out music.
Back to it.
Because if you're cool and you're putting out music, then people want to rock with you because they know you're cool and they see you doing this stuff, both in and out of town. So it's like a big circle. But I think those three things are really what I see lack. And most people I talk to who like want to get somewhere they aren't at and haven't figured out how to get there.
Yep. No, that's huge, man. I can tell you teach as well, like the way you can break things down different points. I'm sitting here like I got my hand. I'm like, okay, 1, this, 2. That's good, man. And the release of music, man, I got the gut check you talked about. I was sitting down. We have these meetings like music supervisors where we like all the people in our community is called the Sync Alliance. We present our music, they give us feedback, and they can ask questions, you know, kind of digging us. And one guy just loved my song and this music supervisor. So I was like, this is cool. And he wanted to talk to me. So I like open up the talking channel. We don't normally talk, but he's like, I got questions for you. And then he's like, how long has your band been together?
I was like, well, blah, blah. It took a few years off, maybe 10 years. He goes, how many songs you got out? I go, 8. And he just stopped. Like, he loved the song. And he goes, you've been in a band for 10 years and you've only released 8 songs?
Man.
And it sucks because there's a playback video. So I went back to listen again. And you could just hear, I went from like, fuck yeah, to like, I mean, we had this thing and I had all, and I'm like, I'm listening like past Miguel. I'm like, just shut up right now. But he wasn't wrong. And the reality is we were sitting on 8 songs that are like fully written and just need to be tracked. We're sitting on like another 8, 9 songs that are like, need to be finished written. We got other remixes that are in there. I'm like, we have all this music. What the hell are we doing? And he was not wrong at all. And it was a good, like, okay, I remember like calling up the guys like, we got to really move, man. We can't be doing this anymore. Cause 10 years, 8 songs, that's insane. Where I know some people have been doing it 10 years. They got like 1,000 songs out there now. And it's like, and they like, that opened my mind quick. It's like, oh, and you get better if you start doing that. You get feedback.
You get better. Yeah. You at a number of things, like the writing process, your efficiency in moving through things. There is something to say though, like one thing that I'm just clocking that I didn't say is like, I think if you're a successful musician, you're either putting out a lot of music and some of it's really moving, you're making a lot of content based on your music, and some of that's really moving, or you're performing all the time, or a combination of the 3. There's at least one of those that is happening relentlessly all the time.
Right.
But all of them don't need to be happening at the same time. One of them needs to be like on 2000.
Right.
I think that's also important to distinguish when there are so many different ways that I've seen people do this well. Like I have a buddy, Marcel P. Black, and he's like basically like if Fred Hampton were a rapper. Like he's a very like super militant, political, socialist, pro-black, Afrofuturistic rapper. And he's not putting out a whole lot of music. He puts out music periodically.
Right.
But he's a teacher in Tulsa, Oklahoma. For a while, he was in, I think, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And he throws shows. And then during the summer, he tours relentlessly. But he has cultivated personal relationships with some of the most legendary figures in independent hip hop. Like, and I don't mean like big viral independent hip hop. I mean like the underground, you know, we're talking, he's telling me about a phone call he had with like Murs or like Sky Zoo or somebody, like people who are like really like underground guys who are legendary and very universally respected in hip hop, but don't have like these astronomical numbers that, like Kendrick might have or Cole might have or something like that.
Right.
But he's getting booked at all of the indie hip hop festivals every year and has the respect of people who I would say are goated in underground hip hop.
Right.
And he's very consistent in doing that. And I have some friends like kind of like a Big Sis, Filipino rapper, Shubzilla, they build beats. They're like, they pulled their music off of a lot of streaming stuff and they're still making stuff actively. They just do shows. And it's like, they're not looking to necessarily they're looking to do what they want musically, be active in that, and have respect in the corner or the pocket that they have in music.
That makes sense.
I think that's okay.
Right.
I think
it's like knowing what your goal is and where, and being okay with that. Because even as you were talking, it makes me think of like Nipsey Hussle, where he only had one major label album, but it's like everybody knew who he was. Like he built something that like was about legacy in his community, and that's what he wanted to do. And it's like tragically, he only got a chance to like he climbed those heights and only had one album. And that's
there's a lot that I could say about that, because there are some people in Kansas City who were working with him when he died. Man, I'm gonna keep that offline.
Okay.
Like But I was studying Nipsey when I was doing what I was talking about in grad school, where I was putting out content,
Right.
putting out songs as content. I was like just looking at what Nip was doing.
Mm-hmm. I think so many people were. I still see it in certain people's strategies right now. You can just tell. I know people are still trying to like formulate strategies off of how he built things from a marketing.
That was such a
branding.
unique thing. And he had like the consistency and like the international game and the merch game.
Yes, true.
You know, like it was really crazy how comprehensive he was. And it's really unfortunate that he got and I'm thinking about even the Neil Gaming thing you said. I actually had dinner with him when I was 20.
What?
And he came to the University of Alabama, and I was one of the students who was like selected to be able to like be in the dinner conversation.
Everybody go to this school because you get to talk to some real people.
And at that time, I wanted to do graphics for video games, and I wanted to do graphic novels and comics, and I wanted to be a rapper, and I wanted to be in entertainment business. I didn't know which thing it was. And I was talking to him about theory and like being worried about breaking the rules as like a rapper who was in comics and jazz. And he was like, just don't worry about the rules and just create a lot.
That's awesome.
And that was like a kind of like a game changer thing for me.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a lot of my mindset has come. I have like a number of interactions kind of like that like almost seem like some dream world to me now, you know, years later.
But what a powerful voice to have someone tell you your early 20s when you're trying to make and decide your path, to have people surrounding you that are saying, no, break the rules, go for it.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree. And there's so much, like, we've been talking for a little bit. My wheels are turning.
Yeah.
And I have a little bit of a cocktail in here, but it's 5
Can
o'clock
we call
somewhere.
this brunch? Did we just make it? Hold on. Well, I think we just made it. I'm going to go pour some vodka in this coffee.
We have made it, Miguel.
We're having brunch on a Thursday, man.
Even, you know, I don't know how much of Neil Gaiman's Fall for Grace you've been paying attention to.
I feel like, unfortunately, now it's just, I almost don't want to like read any headlines because I'm like, every person, man, even like finding out, I mean, even Nipsey Hussle is a hero of mine, but there's some ambiguity about some shit he did in the beginning where he like skipped the country. And there's a whole lot of stuff where I'm like, I don't want to know about Jay-Z. I don't like, it sounds terrible, but I'm like, God, that's saddening. Saddening? Is that? Yeah. Anyways, yeah. I saw some brief things about Neil Gaiman.
It's really bad, dude. And like, I think the other part of this is like in the consistency thing and the putting out your art thing, there's like, again, going back to the Andy Goldberg thing, like work hard and be cool.
Yeah.
You know,
don't be a rapist. That's
like, add
that in there. Like,
so there's, you know, like, be
power.
cool. Be cool.
Yeah, be cool.
Expansively.
That fits, you know, in. Be cool.
Yeah. And I really hate seeing and reading some of that stuff because it's like, okay, so if I do achieve this monumental success, am I grounded enough as a human being to still be cool? And I think that's a really big thing that a lot of us don't ask ourselves because we don't expect some of this stuff to happen.
Mm-hmm.
For the ones of us who do like have this monumental success, it's like, if you're just working, like you're not as inclined to think about, hey, is there a risk that I might become super egomaniacal if I become monumentally successful? And like, I think from a personal work standpoint, that's something that we really need to think about more as creatives.
Mm-hmm.
That's like kind
Gary
of a tenet sort of thing.
Gary Vee talks about how he doesn't think that power corrupts people. He thinks power and money exposes exactly who you are. And I think that's I think that's really true, where it's like, and maybe I don't fully agree. I feel like maybe there's some people where there's like maybe some tendencies, but it's like at some point they can become, what do they call it? Like in comic books where it's like, that was the day he became the villain. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like they hit a spot where it's like they could go left or right. And it's like almost like the angel and the demon on your shoulders. And they just start listening to that demon more and more and they start following him that way. And he takes them out. That's where like even this podcast, you know, the idea came from me too, because I've always been like just passionate about the idea of, I've always wanted to build great things. I always wanted to create great things. Like I have, like right now, the band, like the mantra we're saying is like, our goal is to play our songs for stadiums full of people. Like that's really where we're trying to go and try to understand what that looks like for us. But I wasn't content with just doing that. It's like I wanted to have a great life, because I also know, like Ed Sheeran, it's a cheesy song, but he's a great songwriter. He talks about like where he's like, when my hands don't work anymore, when I can't play the guitar and the crowds aren't singing my name, will you still be here? And it's like to understand that no matter how successful you get, like this shit's going to end. We're going to die. What do you leave behind? You know, and that is, you know, controversy aside, that is something I really love about Nipsey Hussle, is because he seemed to be very focused on this legacy mindset. Like even, I'm sure there's a bravado in driving around, you know, his car in the hood. Part of it was also from his perspective was, I'm showing these kids there's something bigger than the life they're trapped in, you know? And I think, yeah, that's how I felt after I was reading a biography on him, and I was like, yeah, I want to leave great things behind. And I think maybe it's easy for people to forget that. Maybe it'd be easy for me to forget that when the, you know, all the accolades and all that shit comes rolling in. But it's like, ideally we set ourselves up to stay focused on living a great life as well, and leaving a legacy and investing in the people we love and care about. Yeah. Sorry, I got off on a tangent on that, but that's what it makes me think about, like just this whole conversation when you see people fall.
That's totally real. And I think that it kind of creates a full circle moment from the start of this, where you're like, what do you want? And I'm like, I want to do whatever I want, but like, I'm a community minded person. I think if as a rapper, like at the top level, rappers become moguls and serial entrepreneurs. But at the mid-range level and at the lower level, rappers are educators and community advocates. If you look at successful indie rappers, or even if you look at local legends in Kansas City who aren't like super wealthy, and you look at what they're doing, a lot of them are heading up nonprofits, they have storefronts, they're educators. Like, it's all stuff that is very, like, this could be my little pocket of the community where I can make an impact. And it doesn't really matter what they were talking about. Some of these people were really on some hood shit, you know what I mean? And they've got like this storefront, they donate their little piece of the profits to like this set of nonprofits, and like they you know, donate to food pantries, they volunteer at things. Like hip hop was inherently like it started as a community togetherness mechanism in the midst of oppression, where you look at like the DJs breaking and like the dance battles and stuff. It was like oppressed people coming together and finding joy in music and dance and art that had bravado to it, and that had a little bit of braggadocio, like, okay, so we're all together, but let me show you my sauce. Let me show you like what I got going on, sort of thing. That's literally how it started. In the midst of like all this stuff, it's like we weren't provided the educational provisions to learn jazz, so we'll just chop the jazz record up and talk over it.
Right.
And there's a lot about community that this like goes back to the Nipsey thing. There's a lot about community in that, where it's like, okay, if I could be successful, then maybe I can help create pathways for people who don't have these avenues to maybe find a way out of this thing that we were stuck in, that I, unicorn, escaped. So when I talk about like being a community-minded person, wanting to do whatever I want, there's like a recognition that like me being the most pure version of myself is going to impact community in a positive way in whatever communities I'm in. And at this point, I've been around long enough to understand that that is what actually happens, and have faith that that will continue happening if I just be the pure, honest version of myself, even if I'm not saying a thing that's community minded, even if I'm talking about debauchery. You know what I mean? There's still a spirit and an energy to what I'm doing that is going to lend itself to this thing over here. I wasn't always there, and I think one of the coolest parts about this journey is that I've gotten to that point. Like, honestly, there's a lot that I want to do. There's a lot that would mean a lot to me to accomplish, but I'm at that point that I just talked about, and I really don't need to do anything else as an artist. I can just exist here, and I will impact people, and I will grow as a human, and the communities around me will be positively affected in some way. Everything else is like, okay, what are my personal goals? What are my career goals? And I think that's important. And that's kind of specific to hip hop, but there are a lot of tenets of that. There are a lot of things from that apply to like everything, every other music genre. Well, I think it's really important to like, you know, for Miguel to meet Miguel where Miguel is at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And like, hold a mirror up to yourself and look at all the ancestors and previous artists' shoulders we're standing on.
Yeah.
And just have a mindset of like, this is not just for me. Let me just be. And what is the best version of me being as a creative? And I think that's kind of like where everything is.
Yeah. I like that point too, what you're talking about, as far as, you know, your intention is to invest in the community, even if you might write a song about like debauchery or something like that. Cause like as we write about all these different topics, like as a band, we've really expanded like the things we're addressing. I wrestle with that because I'm like, before I always had more of like almost just like a motivational mindset of how I would write, where now I want to try to display all different aspects of life. And I've thought about that with my kids, where I'm like, oh, if I say some shit here that's not like maybe it's a little darker or a little harsher, or like we have one song that's like this weird, like, it's like a BDSM ghost story. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I'm like, what does that mean for my kids if they're listening to that? But I think it's actually important for them to see. And I think for the communities that you're involved with, it's like, we are whole people. Like we aren't just, I think that's maybe where some people get in trouble, because they build themselves up as this hero as opposed to just being honest about the pieces they are. So then they have to like hide parts of who they are in that regard. But yeah, as an artist, to be like holistic and say like, we can talk about this thing that's like inspiring. We can talk about this thing that's dark. We can talk about this thing that's harsh, and bring all that world together. And that is the art that helps inspire and continue the conversation with other people. But dude, last 2 questions. I feel like we could probably keep having brunch and talking forever, but 2 more questions. And on this, based off the podcast right now, how would you define living a great life?
I would say living a great life is being the best version of yourself. And sometimes what the best version of yourself is a really hard thing to discover. So that could be a journey, but everybody has a different walk. And we get caught up in a lot of things, especially in the late stage capitalist, hyper rugged individualist version of the US, that where like everybody's trying to find some version of community togetherness, but we are so like indoctrinated and propagandized into this like rugged individualism that like clashes with like the village entity that we kind of were quote unquote designed to be in. And it's hard to be the best version of yourself when you have all this pressure to like be successful and make money and blah, blah, blah. And then you may have been raised to think that like all your stuff is your stuff and not like something that takes a village, and everything kind of takes a village. You know what I mean? But I would say living a great life is being the best version of yourself.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's true. It's like, I think the more, because my tendency is to fall very much into the rugged individualism. That's just like who I am. Like, I don't like working out. Like, I tried working out with like partners at the gym. I'm like, this fucking sucks. I can't do it. That's one reason I got into endurance sports, because it's just me. It's a sport. It's just me. I might pass some people or they might pass me. But I feel like I grow every time I connect with other people. And the collaborations in music or collaborations in life is where I think I discovered a better part of myself. And so that's huge, man. That's very huge. Well, last question right now. How would you define creating great things?
Wow. My blanket answer would be, I don't know.
Maybe the best answer so far. I think you're like episode 181 or something. Maybe the best answer out of this.
There are things, if I could like throw out, I wouldn't say it's a guess, but like from experience response that may like cover a piece of this is like recognition, creating in a state of recognition of the moment. There's the stuff that people tell me is most impactful for me lyrically is all of it has come from moments where I was in a space and I'm like, I am seeing this and I'm feeling this and I really need to say something about it right now. An example of that, I have a song called Glassy Eyes that doesn't have the biggest numbers in the world. Did okay. Every time I perform it, I can look in people's eyes and see it hitting them. And I've had people tell me, like, they'll list a bunch of quote unquote nerdcore songs that everybody needs to hear. And they always put Glassy Eyes on the list. And It's about representation. It's basically, I was at MagFest in DC in 2018. I wrote this EP called Room Service. I just quit my fintech job. I was going to main stage this convention I had wanted to play for years, and this would be my third time main staging it in some capacity. And I was terrified, like absolutely terrified. I'm like, dude, like me and my lady just bought a house. I'm broke. Like, and I don't know how this is going to go. Did I make this stupid decision to go after myself as an artist? And I also hate New Year's resolutions. And so I was writing about how I hate New Year's resolutions because I just want to be consistent. I don't care about any of this stuff. And I'm at MagFest and I just written the title track, Room Service. I'm writing between shows and parties. It's like I'm guesting on all these people's sets. I'm going to all these parties. And like, it's just a really good time. It's a lot of like, it's like a nerd family reunion, basically. I think it was like the 30th, 40th anniversary of the Atari 7200 or something like that.
Okay.
Somebody, this is diabolical, but this guy went and ordered like 7,200 chicken nuggets, like went to multiple McDonald's and shut all their chicken nugget operations down, buying 7,200, if I remember right, like 7,200 chicken nuggets, and brought them into the hotel lobby.
That's wild.
This message went out to like all of the people. Was like, hey, there are chicken nuggets in the hotel lobby. And I'm crossfaded at this point. It's like 1 a.m. I'm crossfaded.
Yeah. So you're ready for all the nuggies.
So I go down and get some chicken nuggets. I finish writing the title track to Room Service. There's literally a line, if you listen to Room Service and listen to the title track, it's like, it's 3 a.m. and I just got some nuggets. Like I literally say it in the song. And
that's awesome.
And right after that, I go to another party and people have weed, they've got booze. I come back to the hotel room crossed up and I'm thinking about how this is something I wanted so much. And when I first started trying to book myself at anime and video game conventions, there were people who literally thought I would be inciting gang violence because there weren't like black rappers at their conventions. And you like super racist.
Right.
But here I am, like main staging.
Yeah.
Arguably the biggest community oriented video game convention in America. This like a community event, but it's also an industry event.
Okay.
It's like, you know, I've been on stage with like the composers of a bunch of different massive video game franchises just rapping, and they're just like hanging out.
Nice.
Right. But at the same time, there's all this like just fandom stuff, but it all exists in the same space, and it's really beautiful. And I wanted to be there for so long. So it's like I have glassy eyes because I'm there, but I have to acknowledge that I broke a glass ceiling to get there. And that's how the song happened, because I'm like, this is beautiful. I'm high as fuck. This is really beautiful. I'm eating some chicken nuggets. I'm going to make this beat real quick and celebrate this glass ceiling that the homies and I broke through to get there. And that was 2018. Marcus Lewis arranged a version of that for the Brass and Bougie situation. But like, I literally can see people being affected by those lyrics every single time I perform that song. And that was like an in the moment, like that was a debaucherous situation that turned into a beautiful moment.
Exactly.
You know, I was being highly irresponsible.
Well, and I think it does hit that piece as an artist, man. I think that's why some music that gets too like motivational or too high horse, whatever you want to call it, just falls flat. Where it's like, I was talking, are you familiar with Omega Sparks since you're running?
Yeah.
So
he
was my guest.
No, that's my guy, man. You had him on this shit. Yeah, I love that dude.
I love Omega, man. When you said that festival, I was like, I wonder if he knows Omega, because that's what he's talking about.
The last time I had a solo set at MagFest, I went on right after him.
No shit. So literally. His episode literally just dropped. It's live about an hour ago.
Dude, I'm gonna go. I gotta
his clip's about to go. But he was talking about that same thing. But one thing we talked about is like the power of art, where it's like the world doesn't accept like perfect heroes anymore. Like they want the imperfections. They want the real thing. And that's how that impacts them. So if you were going to distill it, then would you say like in that story, greatness, like great art comes from authenticity that impacts other people? Would that be where you're going?
That's a really good job, dude. That's a really good way to draw that in. I would say, yeah, authenticity in the moment impacts people. I would still default to I don't know.
Right. At the end of the day. Right.
But no, I think that's a good way to put that. Yeah.
I think that the I don't know hits too, because it's, as King Green said, my takeaway yesterday with him in that session was he's basically like, nothing fucking matters anymore in this industry. It's like, I walked away. I was like, it's the Wild Wild West. We like what greatness is going to be. We have no idea. We just got to go do our thing. And that maybe that just brings us back to the authenticity, you know?
Yeah. So if I could add to that really quickly, yeah, nothing fucking matters. It's the Wild West and everything is connected.
Yeah.
The most shocking thing to me in this journey is how much there are people who are aware of other things and people at every level. So like late 2018, it's like Brass and Bougie, we opened for Janelle Monáe. At this point, like Dom Sanders is like really established at this point. But at this point, it was like, oh, Dom's like really doing shit. Dom hits me up and he's like, hey, you trying to go to Omaha and record on Jadena's next album? Like, we need a horn section. And I'm like,
you're like,
what? So fast forward, I'm in the car with Marcus Lewis. We're going to play on Jadena's 85 to Africa album at Make Believe Studios in Omaha. And Rick Carson's incredible. And I haven't gotten to spend a lot of time with him, but I like love his energy and he's a brilliant dude. So we're going to Rick Carson's Make Believe Studio in Omaha. Marcus, who was playing with Janelle Monáe for years, and before that was playing with the Ohio Players and has played with like Aretha Franklin, blah, blah, is just in the car telling me stories about times he had with Prince when Prince took Janelle on tour. And I'm like, bro, insane. Just like, let me out of the car. Just like, I'll walk. Like, I can't be in here with you while you're talking about the, like,
right.
Chill. But like, it was really cool to hear some of that. But we get to the studio, and one of Jadena's day ones, who's like produces some and DJs for him, his name's Nana Aquabini. I walk in. This is the first major label situation I've ever been in. Nana's like, hey, what's up? You want some French toast? I'm like, bro, I'm terrified. What am I supposed to say?
He's got cinnamon.
Yeah, like, I'm just like, dude, I just got here. Like, I'm freaking out. And none of this is the point. This is just background information. But like,
it's a good story. I like it.
I'm like, so fast forward, play some Horn Lake, sit and listen and stuff. I'm talking to Jadena. And I literally have like, this was a work for hire thing. I literally have the email where it says Jadena Mobison just Venmo'd you. I have it screenshotted and saved, right? But we're talking about nerdcore because Jadena went to Stanford and he was a freshman or a sophomore when a nerdcore OG who goes by MC Lars, he's like this lit rap guy. He has like an Edgar Allan Poe rap album, for example. MC Lars was like the rapper at Stanford when Jadena was coming into Stanford. So Jadena had been paying attention to nerdcore for all these years. And so when he was asking me like what I do and I was telling him, he was like, oh yeah, I know about all these people because I was starting to rap in college when MC Lars was rapping at Stanford. And I'm like, that's absolutely insane that like this superstar is aware of this like niche thing that I do.
Right.
You know? And that was like one of the first times I was like in a space where I'm like, all this stuff is very connected. And
absolutely. And the higher you go, I feel like the smaller the world gets. It doesn't matter the genre. It doesn't matter. And it's like everyone kind of knows like, oh yeah, I know them. And yeah, we did this one thing. Like it's been my experience of just seeing how it overlaps, which is cool.
It's cool. It's fascinating. It also reinforces that nothing matters because like people know about stuff and they don't do anything, you know? And then you find like, and I, you know, I won't like storytell more because I've been storytelling a lot, but like there have been moments where I found out people were totally aware of this thing and they had all the resources and power to do something to like push us forward a little bit. They could have just like said a sentence to somebody and it would have like drastically impacted the thing, and they did not. And I'm just like, why didn't you do anything about that if you were aware of it? But
yeah,
like
that's true.
The nothing matters thing, you know. So
and that's a good reminder too, though, for if you find yourself in those same rooms, you know, it's what I think of as like, how do you help put on other people? Like if you notice like, oh, you're doing this thing, you should talk to this person and help connect. Cause it's like, yeah, not everybody thinks of that to be that connector. But well, dude, let everyone know how they can connect with you and recruit you for their next album or whatever it is. Check out your music.
Sure thing. So I'm Kadesh Flow. A lot of people call me Desh. My government name is Ryan. I'm just, you know, this guy out here trying to make his way in the world. And you can find me at Kadesh Flow on everything. You can literally just Google Kadesh Flow. And my contact links are in, I think, every platform I have right now. So it's really easy. I'm really easy to get to. If you can remember this, my best email to reach me is desh@kadeshflow.com, but socials are fine. And I'm all over the place. So if you Google me, you'll probably see some performance that I'm doing with somebody. I'm just out here bebopping around.
It's awesome, man. Well, dude, thanks for making the time.
Thank you, Miguel. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate having me.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.